Under the full moon, we gather for a very sacred conversation on grief, healing, and remembrance.
Hi, my name is Miami Knight, and grief changed my life. Actually, it changed my identity. And before we begin, I wanted to ask you something. Is this you? Are you the one awake late at night, just carrying pain that no one sees? The one trying to function while silently grieving parts of yourself, your life, your loved ones, your health, your spirit? Well, if so, welcome to the conversation. You are not alone here. Grief stripped away versions of me that were surviving in silence and forced me to confront pain, loss, and parts of myself I had abandoned. What once felt like an ending slowly became an awakening. Through grief, I found my voice again. I found healing through sound, spirituality, remembrance, and sacred connections. I began to understand that grief is not something that we just simply get over. It's something that we'll carry and honor and transform. And today, my work is about creating spaces where people feel seen in their pain, supported in their healing, and reminded that even after loss, life can still hold meaning, beauty, and purpose. Because the truth is, nobody really wants to talk about how grief changes your identity, how it changes your nervous system, your body, your relationships, your thoughts, your faith, your sense of safety in the world. Well, in 2027, it'll make 10 years since the loss of my son. 10 years. And even since now saying that out loud feels so surreal because grief changes time too. Some days it feels like it's yesterday, and other days it feels like I've lived that 10 different times, 10 different lifetimes ago since then. And his loss changed me in ways that I still struggle to explain. I spent years trying to rebuild myself after that kind of heartbreak, trying to make sense of the trauma, trying to survive something no parent ever imagined surviving. And somewhere along the way, I created coping frameworks for myself, spiritual tools, emotional tools, ways to keep going when life no longer felt recognizable. But then 2 years ago, another devastating loss shattered the foundation I had built. Another suicide entered my life in a deeply personal way. And suddenly, the things I thought that helped me survive grief before no longer felt enough because disenfranchised grief carries a different kind of silence. The grief people avoid talking about, the grief wrapped in shame, questions, guilt, confusion, anger, stigma, and isolation. And I realized something very important. You can be spiritually aware, emotionally intelligent, supportive to everyone else, and still be struggling deeply underneath it all. I threw myself into my work. I masked mental pain and masked physical pain. I stayed productive while privately unraveling. And what made it even harder was realizing I was facing the very same emotional realities I had supported others through for years. The fear, numbness, exhaustion, disconnection, survival mode. I think many grievers become experts at surviving while silently falling apart, right? And honestly, that's one of the great truths nobody discusses openly because talking about grief, sometimes it feels like it's a season. Like eventually you'll arrive to some final destination called healed or something. But grief doesn't move in a straight line. Sometimes grief revisits you through anniversaries and smells and songs and memories and illnesses and silence or even moments of joy. And sometimes grief shows up as identity loss. You no longer know who you are after everything you survived. That's the conversation I want us to have here. These are the conversations that I want us to have here. Not polished grief, not performative healing, not pretending to have all the answers, just honest conversations about loss, healing, remembrance, spirituality, survival, and what it means to rebuild yourself when life changes you forever. This space is for the grieving, the exhausted, the spiritually searching, the ones carrying invisible pain. And if that's you, I hope this podcast becomes a companion for your healing journey. So thank you for being here with me. And stay tuned because next episode, we're diving into grief truths that almost nobody discusses openly, how grief can make you feel disconnected from versions of yourself you used to be. So until next time, breathe gently and take care of yourself. Oh, just before you go, I forgot. I love to share grief quotes. And here's one that I coined myself. Understanding grief in ways to heal awakens the spiritual self. So till the next time, Ashe. Bye bye.